Surviving the Game as a Barbarian. Chapter 761. Secret Garden, 2/6 novels, BR. The stage was set almost instantly. Everyone retreated, leaving a circular arena in the center, and some skilled spectators used their skills to set up the rest. Open black lens bracket light Nyman cast the 4th tier defensive magic, Wall of Flowing Water. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket Keld Lias cast the 4th tier shadow magic, Wall of the Dead. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket Myrtle Elberita has conjured the Divine Protection Array. Close black lens bracket. The makeshift army of mages and skill users used their abilities to form a barrier dozens of layers high. Some skills ended up hindering the crowd's visibility, but this was quickly corrected when onlookers began to complain. Hey, are you kidding? I can't see anything because of the wall of corpses. Don't use this unless it's transparent. But still, wouldn't that be safer? Don't even think about it. Only accept the impact if the barrier is broken. Those who had to cancel their abilities were sullen at not being able to display their powers, but the consumers were merciless. Others quickly filled the gaps left behind. Rise. Twilight Curtain. Oh, it has a yellowish tint, but it's better than before. But why did you say, rise? From what I see, it's just clouds gathering. Don't ask. In any case, a reasonably high-quality arena was created in a short period of time. Except, of course, that aside from the professional-level barrier, the scenario essentially boiled down to a street fight. Cries of encouragement echoed from outside the barrier. "UOO. Vice Captain, show us what you're capable of. I can finally see the demon eye with my own eyes." Some were rooting for me too. Although, by some, I mean one. Actually, 2 kisses. Great warrior. Aoyan, why aren't you shouting? I'm rooting for you, Captain. Aoyan also seemed to be saying something, but I couldn't hear it because of Einar's booming voice and the barrier in the way. Anyway, it wasn't important. I turned my body slightly to the side and looked at Amelia. When I stared, silently asking why she wasn't cheering, she sighed before muttering something under her breath. From the movement of her lips, it seemed like she said, "Good luck." Hey, it's always fun to tease her. Responding to his encouragement with a smirk, I tilted my head to look up at the rooftop of the 3-story building. The figure there met my eyes, then smiled before shouting, "What are you doing? Go fight already." He acted like a school bully forcing 2 classmates to fight. It was quite funny to think that way. The vice captain of Oracles versus me. This confrontation ended up happening right in the middle of the street thanks to the interference of a certain troublemaker. He's amazing, not just in one way. Though his actions seemed childish at times, I knew better than to underestimate him. It was a calculated act on his part, just as I pretended to be an ignorant barbarian whenever it suited me. Anything to get what I wanted. If acting that way was more effective, I never hesitated. But I'm going crazy trying to figure out what his goal is here. I looked away from Beko as he munched on his piece of jerky on the rooftop, like he was eating popcorn at a movie theater. Pondering his motivations wouldn't yield an answer anytime soon, so I decided to leave that thought to my future self. Concentrate. It was time to put all my energy into solving the current problem. Little was publicly known about the demon eye, Roland Bonozant. Among what was known, the most important fact was that he was a user of special abilities and Torboard. He possessed a first-level essence. A Torboard was similar to a doppelganger, in a way. Not because of its unique ability, but because it was a creature that could only be found within a special rift, rather than in a common field. He appeared as the guardian of one of the rifts on the 9th floor, the Hell Castle. In simpler terms, he only dropped a guardian essence, just like the doppelganger. So how did he get such a precious essence? I didn't need to question that at the time. That's why everyone's talking about the Golden Age and stuff. Just a few decades ago, this city had some clans capable of reaching the 8th floor, and some even reached the 9th. Naturally, At that time it was easier to obtain experience, and the prices of high-level essences were also lower. Even that damn Dragon Slayer managed to reach the 9th level back then. Of course, all of this ended with a single-dimensional collapse that split the entire world apart. On the outside, you seem unfazed, but you're also cornered, Demon Eye said from where he was, a considerable distance away. Seeing you accept this fight even though you know the disadvantage shows that there really is no other way out. I thought I had heard wrong at first. It took me a moment to process his words. Also, is he serious? Well, it made sense from his perspective. He was a seasoned veteran, an elite from the Golden Age. Even though I was a rising star, quite famous these days, he must have seen me as just a kid who hadn't even been to the 9th floor. And there is also the issue of confrontation. Tanks were terrible in 1v1 duels. Well, they were decent if they were built for PvP, but in that case, there was no point in playing as a tank. Tanks existed for teamwork, and only shined when supported by allies. This was common sense in this world, or rather, the outdated wisdom of the old world. So, before this old wizard, who had no idea how the world worked, could finish his sentence. Okay. Then let's go with. Wow. I let out a roar as I charged at him. Boom. My body, enlarged by the open black lens bracket gigantification close black lens bracket skill, advanced with large leaps, closing the distance in an instant. Open black lens bracket you cast swing. Close black lens bracket. As a boxer's opening punch in the first round, I used a basic attack against him. There are things that cannot be achieved with determination alone. Obviously, the attack missed. Open black lens bracket Roland Bonozant has released green demon eye. Close black lens bracket. The moment her eyes turned green. Bang! A greenish translucent barrier appeared between us and blocked my hammer. Open black lens bracket Roland Bonozant cast red demon eye. Close black lens bracket. Then his eyes turned red, and like a scene from a movie, red lasers started shooting from them. FZZT. Of course, it didn't hurt that much. It was like being hit by one of those electric shock toys sold in gift shops. Still, repeated hits would hurt eventually, so I put up my shield to protect myself. Hooray! I charged at him with my shield raised, and his eyes changed color again. Open black lens bracket Roland Bonozant has released blue demon eye. Close black lens bracket. The moment his eyes turned blue, an aura of the same color began to swirl around his body. Vwong! He disappeared from sight. However, he hadn't gone far. Behind me, I felt his presence and turned around, finding him staring at me again with his red eyes. You can't defeat me. Wow! We hadn't even been fighting that long, and he was already bragging. I wanted to shut him up immediately, but instead of charging forward like before, I defended myself with my shield while organizing my thoughts. It really is a trickster essence. Torbord's essence was truly unique. In exchange for not having a passive skill, she had more than 7 active skills. Green demon eye for defense, red demon eye for offense, and blue demon eye for movement. In other words, this single essence met most of his needs. I wonder what his other essences are. Dungeon and Stone was not a game that could be completed with just one essence. The most important essences in a build were the support ones, which strengthened the main power. He could become a powerful damage dealer by filling the rest of his essence slots with those that enhance the red demon eye, or increase his safety by building around the green demon eye. So what did he do? This shield is as complicated as they say. His grumble was accompanied by a growing intensity in his red gaze. Just by looking at it, I knew what skill it was. Open black lens bracket Roland Bonozant casts light bending. Close black lens bracket. A third-tier transformative skill that turned a projectile into light and made that light fly in a curve instead of a straight line. Additionally, if the projectile was already light, it increased the damage it dealt, and significantly so. Whing! Like guided missiles from video games, the lights shooting from his eyes moved intelligently around my shield, hitting my body directly. That's when I realized, I've been fooled before. In fact, I already had a rough idea of how he set up the demon eye. I had heard the basics of it from Einar. Those red eyes I was seeing weren't real. They just looked that way to my eyes. In reality, they were probably white as paper. Open black lens bracket Roland Bonozant cast white demon eye. Close black lens bracket. Eyes that cast an illusion on any target within their field of vision. And of course, since it was a first-level essence, it was not a simple illusion. Open black lens bracket The accumulated damage has exceeded a specific limit. Close black lens bracket. As long as I remained in the illusion, all the damage I suffered would be transferred to reality. And the most unbalanced part of this essence was yet to come. As long as the target never breaks the illusion and escapes, he can use his abilities without limit. No limit did not refer to cooldown time or soul power consumption. When this illusion was applied in the game, it allowed the caster to use 9 third-tier or lower essences as many times as they wanted. Open black lens bracket Roland Bonozant casts light bending. Close black lens bracket. Simply put, the way the laser was bending wasn't actually due to the open black lens bracket light bending close black lens bracket skill. The story about how he killed the previous vice captain with a single attack was probably because he used this illusion, and any observer wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Anyway, the important thing was that this guy had correctly set up his low-level essences. My mental attributes were quite high, but even I didn't notice the illusion until I fell into it. He's an illusionist, so he definitely has open black lens bracket reality escape close black lens bracket, and probably some skills that reduce mental resistance. Most people would die without being able to resist. Well, while it wasn't completely foolproof, it was extremely difficult to escape. Option 1. Ignore the illusion and simply overpower the caster with physical force. Option 2. Hold out until the caster's MP runs out. Option 3. Break the illusion and escape. These were the only ways out, and naturally my choice had already been made. Open black lens bracket The accumulated damage has exceeded a specific limit. Close black lens bracket. I took the hit. Pishwang. I got another one again. Vwang. And I even stepped forward and struck uselessly from time to time, so that my opponent wouldn't suspect anything. Open black lens bracket The accumulated damage has exceeded a specific limit. Close black lens bracket. I kept getting more attacks. If I still had those charges from the Dragon Aegis breastplate that I gained from being hit by thunder, I wouldn't have needed to do this. But unfortunately, the charges disappeared over time. Since it had been hours since I was hit by thunder, none of them remained. Open black lens bracket The accumulated damage has exceeded a specific limit. Close black lens bracket. I diligently continued to accumulate my loads. Okay. That should be enough. So I have reached the desired number of charges. I admit, you're the first to resist this. What was this guy talking about? Are those your last words? I looked completely done for, and instead of gently explaining what I meant, I pulled a piece of equipment out of my subspace and placed it on my head. Even while doing this, he didn't realize what I was doing. What a carefree guy. Dungeon and Stone was a game where having good equipment was as important as good essences. Open black lens bracket You have equipped no Flower Crown of Anguish. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket You have received a mental immunity bonus. Close black lens bracket. My mind cleared, as if a storm had passed. When I looked ahead, I saw that he was staring back with completely white eyes. Ugh, what a pain. It made him look like an alien. I was overcome with an unsettling feeling, like looking at something in the uncanny valley, and activated the effect of my second item. Open black lens bracket You have used the Dragon Aegis breastplate. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket reflecting all accumulated damage. Close black lens bracket. Surviving the game as a barbarian. Chapter 762. Secret Garden 3/6 Novels, B.R. Beko Lee watched the fight with a glint in his eyes. His mouth was closed, and his neck was tilted forward, as if he was concentrating every ounce of his attention on the scene. Ars wasn't used to seeing this side of him. Beko, who do you think will win? Beko, however, did not respond in his hyperfocused state, and Ars repeated the question upon realizing that he had not been heard. Finally, Beko turned his attention away from the fight and raised his head to look at Ars. The look in his eyes, however, was strange somehow. It was as if he was trying to understand what Ars' problem was. Cautiously, Ars asked, "Why are you looking at me like that?" "I'm wondering if you're really asking or not. I mean, how would I know what you're thinking? I'm not God. You don't need to be God to know that. We put everything into killing him. How can this guy kill someone that even we can't defeat? But that's the demon eye. And I'm Beko Lee, and that old man over there is the fallen scholar. Surviving an ambush and winning a fight are two different things," Ars replied genuinely. "Things may not turn out as we expect." Beko clicked his tongue in disgust. "Wow, I'll never bet on horse racing with you." "Horse racing? Shut up. Don't talk to me." After dismissing him in irritation, Beko turned his attention back to the duel. Time passed, as Ars waited for a good opportunity to speak to Beko again. Since he was instructed not to interrupt him, he didn't really want to engage the man in conversation, but he couldn't contain his curiosity. Beko. Beko didn't even look away and replied mechanically. "What? Speak up. Why are you so focused on the fight? You said you already believe Baron Yandel will win." Ars thought that perhaps Beko realized that he was acting out of character with that question and hesitated in his answer. "Why shouldn't I focus on the fight? Our Baron here might be hiding more tricks up his sleeve." Ars said, momentarily speechless at the ease of Beko's response. I suppose so. So the new trick that Beko mentioned actually appeared. A flower crown. Is there such an item? He escaped as soon as he put it on, so it must be some kind of mental defense. Beko's eyes lit up, and before Ars knew it, he had already taken out a notebook and started scribbling frantically. His pen glided across the paper at an astonishing speed, accompanied by the excited and intense breaths that escaped through his nose. As he wrote, he even licked his lips occasionally, like someone who had just seen something delicious. Ars watched from the side, trying to suppress the emotion rising in his throat. No, it's not right to insult your allies. Still, for some reason, he felt sorry for Baron Yandel. Watching someone's expression change was the best kind of entertainment. Especially if that someone was my enemy, and their expression changed for the worse. I smiled at my opponent, savoring the scene. When I escaped the hallucinogenic illusion by only wearing the wreath of anguish, his completely white eyes met mine as denial took over his face. Did he escape? Was what his gaze seemed to ask. No, I must be mistaken. Well, he soon woke up to the cold truth of reality. What is this? Demon Eye was smart enough to recognize that the flower crown had something to do with my escape from the illusion, and this realization enraged him. After all, he probably had to consume a lot of essences to specialize in the white demon eye and give up many other things. And all that effort was nullified in an instant by a single item. He must have felt extremely cheated. Open black lens bracket. You have used the Dragon Aegis breastplate. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket reflecting all accumulated damage. Close black lens bracket. The dragon plate skill was activated, and the enormous warrior spirit, tall enough to reach the ceiling of the barriers erected by the mages, raised his giant sword. Demon Eye abandoned his self-pity and focused again. He wouldn't survive if he didn't. Open black lens bracket. Roland Bonozant has released green demon eye. Close black lens bracket. He hurriedly erected a defensive barrier. Crash. And when he saw the barrier being torn apart like paper, he flinched, but quickly used his blue eyes to dodge. Hey, this guy thinks I'm a common barbarian. Open black lens bracket Roland Bonozant has released blue demon eye. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket blue demon eye. Close black lens bracket was a short teleportation skill that allowed one to jump short distances instantly, and it didn't even take a second to cast. However, there was a fatal flaw in the skill: it wouldn't activate if one's movements were restricted. Now, I had no crowd control that I could use against him, but as a player who had played this game for an absurdly long time, I knew something. The restrictions that the open black lens bracket blue demon eye close black lens bracket considered weren't limited to paralysis or stuns. Open black lens bracket you have cast Transcendence. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket you have cast Eye of the Storm. Close black lens bracket. This grab, which I used for combos, was also designated as a movement restriction. Open black lens bracket Roland Bonoz's movement was Restring ID. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket the casting of blue demon eye failed. Close black lens bracket. Simply put, your dodge was cancelled. With his path of escape blocked by the enormous sword of the warrior spirit, fear began to fill his eyes. It was funny, in a way. Demon eye. Huh. But the eyes I was looking into now were nothing but human eyes. The enormous sword tore through the air as it descended towards him, and in his final moment, his expression changed once more to a smile, or, more specifically, ha, a dry laugh of disbelief. That was the end of him. A deafening explosion sent up a cloud of dirt and dust, and all the barriers around us shattered like windows in an earthquake. More than half of the barriers were disabled by the impact alone as it rippled through the ground. As the barriers broke, wind began to blow through the gaps, and dust and dirt began to settle. Everyone silently looked at the remains of what was once the vice captain, scattered across the floor. Ra! Einar broke the silence with a triumphant roar. Bjorn Yandel killed the demon eye. Now Bjorn Yandel is the strongest warrior in the world. That was the catalyst. Attack. The one who seemed to have the most authority after the vice-captain shouted the order, and the Noarchians who were on the side gathered together and charged forward. To be honest, I had already expected this to happen. In war, the entire purpose of a duel like this was to kill a skilled enemy leader without interruption, to boost the morale of the troops. This guy, Glasses, probably thought the same thing. The demon eyes. Original plan was probably to kill me on the stage Beko had prepared for them and then use the victory to advance against the people behind me. Well, that plan became useless when he lost to me. Okay, let's go. As the Orkul's elites and Noarch soldiers crowded around us, Beko finally stopped watching and jumped off the roof, landing next to me. It's been a while, hasn't it? He greeted me as if nothing was wrong. I hesitated before answering. What are you up to? Do you think I'm up to something? That hurts. I came here to help you. Ha! He should stick to more believable lies. By the way, that guy probably isn't dead yet. What? I was startled. Oh, you don't know his essence. I didn't know. When I was locked in the underground cell, the old knight told me that the demon eye had survived having its head blown off thanks to an essence, but he didn't mention exactly what it was. However, I suspected it was some sort of survival essence, and I hoped its cooldown was long enough that it wouldn't be available yet. That guy consumed Helice's essence. And with that, it all made sense. Ah, so that's how it is. Helice's passive was a rather unique survival skill. It didn't increase defenses or provide healing. Open black lens bracket Roland Bonozant's health is at 0% close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket grace period activated. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket a 900-second counter starts. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket during this time, all self-healing effects are disabled. Close black lens bracket. This passive simply allowed him to escape true death for 15 minutes. However, it didn't make him invincible. It merely delayed an instant death. Furthermore, it was only useful if there was a healer or someone to give him a potion nearby. But he consumed that without even being a tank. I began to understand better what kind of person Roland Bonozant was. I realized he just likes to show off. He's a weakling. If it were me, I would have used other essences to avoid situations where I needed a lifeline in the first place. "Ah, they're taking him away," Beko commented, pointing. I quickly turned my head and saw members of the Orkuls carrying the nearly dead vice-captain. The makeshift transport team seemed to be made up of characters focused on agility, given how fast they moved. There was no way I could even try to catch up to them. That's why I looked at Beko. What? Me? Why? I didn't say anything, but I was going to say, dude, why couldn't this bastard be actually helpful since he was here to help? I channeled my irritation into the hammer as I smashed the head of a Noarchian who was charging at me. Amelia then appeared in front of me, holding Eltora with one hand. Oh, and Einar also appeared beside her, holding Aoin. Yandel. Okay. We had everything we needed. Ah, it's been a while for you too, right? Beko tried to greet Amelia, but she didn't even look in his direction, just ignored him. Let's go quickly. We'll leave this place to them. Huh, are you guys going to leave us? Hey, hello. Amelia completely ignored Beko's complaints once again. I joined her. Yes, let's go. Come on up. Once gigantified, I picked up my allies, while Beko clicked his tongue. HMPH, just look at these selfish people. How did my life come to this? Then he gave a smug smile when he noticed my gaze. Huh, I don't need your thanks, so just go. Let's clean this place up properly and then get out of here. I wasn't planning on thanking you, you know. What? Ignoring his disbelief, I warned him to behave, making it clear that I would be watching. With that, I immediately left the battlefield. Boom, boom. Using Eltora's navigation function, I finally reached my destination. As soon as I got there, I was paralyzed. Huh, I was already wondering why there were no soldiers here, even though it was the building where the Marquis was recovering. Curse. The Marquis had already evacuated. Of course I had. With all the time I'd wasted dueling the Demon Eye, it would be strange if he were still around. Still, that didn't mean I was out of options. I turned to Eltora. Hey, where's your dad? Who knows? Where could he be? Don't even think about dodging the question. Well, maybe he moved somewhere else while we were busy. Did he think I didn't know that? Think about it. Where could your father be? This could be your last chance. Indirectly, I made it clear that he might be abandoned if he didn't give me useful information, and Eltora quickly fired off a response. Ah, there's a place. I realized that the place he mentioned wasn't too far away, so we immediately started running again. And when we finally get to that place, also, I met someone I never expected to see. It's been a while, Baron Yandel. Harun Savvy, my ex-girlfriend, surviving the game as a barbarian. Chapter 763, Secret Garden, 4/6 novels, BR. Nothing in my life was simple. The building I arrived at after finishing that unplanned duel against the Demon Eye was completely empty. It seemed like they had taken the Marquis and fled. The village. There is a village not far from here. 1. At my suggestion that he think of a place where the Marquis might have gone, Eltora pointed to a village. A village. A secret village that only the Marquis knows about. It's in District 4. How is it secret if you know about it? It really is a place that no one knows about. I only know because I was there when I was young. No one in the family knows about it. When you were young. I frowned, and Eltora, realizing the reason for my misunderstanding, quickly corrected me. I mean, when this body was young. I found the original person's diary in my room, and there was a passage about a secret village. Wow, so this bastard not only started out as the Prime Minister's son, but he also had the original person's diary. When I first opened my eyes, I had to worry about getting an axe to the head. My father took me to the village. There was a beautiful garden with flowers blooming, and I was surprised to see my father personally taking care of them. That's what I read. Anyway, I didn't want to be caught for being an evil spirit, so I even investigated the location of the secret village. But even after searching all the information available in the mansion, I couldn't find any trace of her. Oh, and how did you find out then? It was thanks to Countess Peprock. When she showed up, I investigated her, just in case. There was a piece of land registered in her name. Not even the Countess knew she owned it. When I visited her, I saw a villa with only an old gardener employed there. I spoke to him, and he didn't even know he was employed by the Marquis. So that's what happened. It certainly looked suspicious, if we ignored one small detail. But if it's such a secret building, how could the Marquis escape there? He's unconscious now. Eltora gasped in surprise when I pointed out this problem, apparently not having thought of it yet. However, he seemed reluctant to give up. Still, wouldn't there be at least one person among his closest advisors who knows about this? He said, casting quick glances to see my reaction. When I just stared at him, he realized how flimsy the argument seemed and looked away. Okay, let's go there. Eltora took a while to respond. Really? Yes. Doing something is better than standing here. With that, I decided to head to the secret village that Eltora mentioned. After all, the Prime Minister already knew that his son was an evil spirit. Someone in his inner circle could have known about the Marquis's villa and taken him there. While the likelihood of him not being there was higher, a search could still yield something valuable. Still, I feel like I'll find something good if I look for a place like this. Even if it was steps in Vaughn now, there was value in searching the Marquis's secret villa. I might stumble upon a secret, just like when I searched the secret room in the Marquis's office. So, tell me, where is this village? It's not far from here. With the new destination set in the navigation system, it didn't take long for us to arrive. The villa was modest, a two-story building surrounded by a high fence. Something about it reminded me of that house, the one I shared with Erwin. After crossing the fence and entering the grounds, I saw the garden, which was beautifully maintained, exactly as Eltora described. As soon as we entered the garden, Amelia surveyed the place before gently touching the flowers. The garden is well kept, she observed. Someone has tended the flowers recently. 2 days at most. It could even have been yesterday. Well, I had no idea how to determine when a garden was last tended, but if Amelia said so, she was probably right. Anyway, I think we're in the wrong place, but let's check inside just to be sure. There may be a secret room where the Marquis is hiding. Okay. She agreed. We were about to enter the building when Amelia suddenly turned her head toward the building. She gave me a look. It seemed like she had felt a presence inside. I didn't even need to try to feel the presence. Footsteps echoed from inside the building. It was just one person. I wondered if it could be the old gardener Eltora mentioned. Also, however, the person who appeared was someone I never expected to meet. It's been a while, Baron Yandel. The first person to react to the woman's kind greeting was Eltora. Haran Savi, why are you here? Good to see you too, Lord Tersarian. You were here not long ago, right? Not long ago. Wait. So, back then, you. Yes, I was hiding and watching you, from the moment you started searching the village until the point you realized the secret. Eltora's expression hardened when Hyunbial openly admitted this. Woman, what are you up to, Arg? His expression relaxed again after being slapped. Don't act like that and keep quiet, I warned him. You understood. Acting like that in front of another man's ex-girlfriend was taboo. With Eltora silenced after a slap, I continued the conversation in her place. Haran Savi, why are you here? It was the question that needed to be answered first. Why was Hyunbyul in the Marquise's secret village? Like this. I'll ask again. Why are you here? I repeated, pressing for a clear answer from her. Hyunbyul simply replied, didn't you come here knowing that? Also, I contacted you to come here. On paper. The role of love. You didn't read it? She asked cautiously. I didn't have time. I cleared my throat, trying to erase the embarrassment from my face, as Hyunbyul shook her head. It's okay. In the end, you still ended up coming here. In fact, that's for the best. Like you were meant to be here. Intended. Amelia muttered that word, which made Hyunbyul shrug. Yes. No matter how twisted and branched the paths are, you will always find again the one you are destined to find. That's an interesting idea. Thank you for finding it interesting. Hello. Amel. Hyunbyul paused awkwardly. Oh, it's Emily Rains, right. Although it seemed like a mistake at first, I knew she had done it on purpose. She was subtly revealing that she knew Amelia's real name. I don't know why she revealed this, though. Yes. Hello to you too. Harun Savvy. With greetings exchanged, Hyunbyul turned her attention to me, returning to the main topic. So, you asked why I'm here. I asked. Come in. Let's talk inside. With that, we entered the village. The interior of the village was very simple. Although each individual piece was expensive, the setting was not as luxurious as I had imagined for a Marquise's secret villa. Honestly, the interior didn't match the image I had of the Marquis at all. It was modest and welcoming, reminiscent of the comfort of a wealthy, quiet family home. I apologize, but could the others step back a bit? Hyunbyul asked. I have something very private that I would like to discuss between just the two of us. There is a room in that hallway where you can rest. I refuse. Amelia intervened, resolute. Hyunbyul looked at me silently. I stifled a sigh before speaking to Amelia. Excuse me, but step out for a moment. I need to hear what she has to say. Understood. With that, Amelia led the others to the room Hyunbyul indicated, and I sat down on the sofa as an inexplicable uneasiness settled inside me. Just a moment. Hyunbyul pressed a button on something that looked like a recorder before placing it on the table. However, instead of being a device to record sound, it was a magical tool that prevented sounds from escaping within a certain radius around the item. You're still the same as ever, I commented dryly. Excuse me, what do you mean? As you always said, the power does not lie with those who make the decisions, but with those who create the decision points. You can relax a little with me, you know. It's just a little weird with this body. Okay, so what is this village? I asked, forcing myself to sound more like Hansu Lee. Hyunbyul smiled, satisfied. Oh, I wonder. But to put it simply, is it like Marquis Tersarian's keepsake box? Something like that. Memory box. You know, like those boxes that hold all the good memories you had in the past. Don't you have anything like that? No. So, what did you do with all the letters I gave you? I threw them away. I thought they would only bring unnecessary feelings if I kept them in my room. When I remained silent, unable to tell her this, Hyunbyul nodded, seeming to understand nonetheless. I wondered why I couldn't find them, no matter how much I searched your room. So, I think we've gotten off topic. Oh, sure, anyway, this is a souvenir box. The place where the Marquis hides whenever he is going through a difficult time. Then why are you in a place like this? The Marquis sent me here. What do you mean? Can you please get straight to the point? Countess Peprock is sleeping in the underground shelter below this building. And the Marquis asked me to protect her and take care of her. So the Marquis isn't here? No. And you don't know where he is? No. How would I know that? I asked just to be sure. You were the one who told me Einar would be executed. Ah, that was quite a coincidence. The Marquis visited briefly around the same time this was happening. When I asked him how the war was going, well, he just told me a few things, as he had when we had spoken in the past. Did you talk to the Marquis? He's unexpectedly kind. The pure love kind, too. He's feeling quite lonely, which is appropriate for his age. Well, I couldn't really agree with that. But everyone had a side that didn't match the image they presented to the world. He loves his daughter very much. And he also treats me very well, probably because I am his daughter's friend and right-hand man. Serious. Oh, haven't you been paying attention? The reason the Marquis started this war was for his daughter. I jumped, looking straight at her. What? Hyunbyul just shrugged and took out a book. When I stared at her, silently asking what it was, she just looked back at me, indicating that I should read it. I opened the cover as requested and started reading from the first page. Then I realized what this book was about. There is a rumor in the Palacio da Gloria. When the ball begins and night falls, an unnamed woman appears in the dance hall. According to witnesses, the girl is incredibly beautiful and petite, with innocent eyes and a musical voice. However, when the enamored nobles approach her and ask her name, she stops her animated conversation and is unable to answer. Moments later, she disappears before their eyes like a ghost. When I first heard about this, I laughed at the rumor. But surprisingly, it was true. On the 16th day of the 7th month, in the middle of summer, while the hot winds persisted even during the night, I went to the palace ball with my father and met that nameless girl. It was the Marquise's diary. Surviving the Game as a Barbarian, Chapter 764, Secret Garden, 5/6 Novels, Br. Before diving into the Marquise's diary, I asked Hyunbyul one more question. Where did you get that? This was not the first time I had seen the Marquise's diary, or at least a coded book that I suspected was his diary. Why, are you worried that I lied and gave you a suspicious book? No, I just find it hard to believe that this is real. How did you manage to do this? Are you insulting me now? Saying I'm an incompetent woman? Huh, no, that's not what I'm kidding. Hyunbyul cut me off with a laugh. And that's not something you can get just by being skilled. And before my bewilderment could turn to irritation, she revealed, he gave it to me. The Marquis. What? I said he gave it to me. He forced Countess Peprock to sleep, locked her in here, and simply dumped it in my lap. Just because she said it like it was simple didn't mean it was easy to understand. So, he just gave you his diary. I suppose he didn't. Just give it to me, you know. Marquis Tersarian was subconsciously looking for someone to understand the life he lived, even if only simple parts of it, his words, not mine. And that person, is it you? Technically, it was Countess Peprock. The Marquis told me to give this diary to her when she woke up, regardless of how this war ended. And if for some reason I couldn't give it to her, he told me to burn it. But it's suspicious that he also lets you read it. That's why I said he's lonely. I asked what would happen if I read it, and he just said I could if I wanted to. I didn't have an answer for that. The second most powerful man in the kingdom, the cold-blooded prime minister, the leader of the march, it didn't matter what he was called by the world, or what he seemed like to you. To me, he was just a simple father who loved his daughter. Even if we recognize that he didn't know how to express it well. The further the conversation went on, the more I got the feeling that the Marquis I knew was different from the one Hyunbyul knew. Perhaps it is to be expected. After all, the way I treated the Marquis was also very different from the way I treated Hyunbyul. Everyone has an unexpected side to them, but there are limits to the sides we are willing to share with certain people. So, she prompted. Aren't you going to read it? I should. This is an opportunity to read that Marquise's secret diary. Well, I guess I'm not the first. Not even the second one. Also, El Tora Tersarian. He was here a few days ago and was snooping around the place. It seemed like he was looking for something, so I left this somewhere he could find it. I jumped. What? Oh, don't worry. This is the original. I have a magic tool that I use a lot for administrative work, and I used it to make some copies of important passages. The reason I was startled wasn't because I was worried about whether this was the original. Did you show him? Why? I asked, tilting my head. Hyunbyul's answer was indifferent. Because Eltora Tersarian would betray the Marquis if she understood his thoughts. And that would be useful to you, Hansu, wouldn't it? I was momentarily speechless. Hyunbyul was right, of course, and things also ended in my favor because of that. Still, I was perplexed. Didn't you just say that the Marquis is a lonely man? Hyunbyul didn't seem to understand my point. Yes, that's true. But I'm also a lonely person. I let out a sigh. Yeah, there was no way I could beat her with words. Did I do a good job? Hyunbyul asked, noticing my smile. I answered her, good job. Now, let's read the rest of this diary. After reading the Marquis's diary, my first impression was that it covered a long period of his life. 16th day of the 7th month, 27th of the 8th, 22nd of the 9th. The dates were quite far apart from each other. Of course, it wasn't because this was something he forgot to do until the last day of his summer vacation, nor was it because the Marquis wasn't the type to write daily. This diary was simply, this is just a collage. He had taken specific parts from his real diary and stitched them together here. It was like cutting out only the articles you liked from a newspaper and saving them for easy retrieval later. Please stop analyzing it, Hyunbyul criticized impatiently. Can you just read the rest of it at once? Sure. Hiding my embarrassment, I continued reading the diary. The structure of this diary was naturally that of a collection of essays. However, the genre of the story within the diary seemed to be romance, with perhaps a touch of thriller thrown in. I went to the palace ball with my father and met that nameless girl. This story began when the Marquis met the rumored girl at the ball. The Marquis quickly ran up to her and asked if she was the subject of the rumor, and the girl vanished into thin air, seemingly overwhelmed by the question. Upon returning home, the Marquis wondered whether what he had seen was real or just a trick of the eyes. He thought about it and eventually decided to find the girl again. And then, 27th day of the 8th month, late summer, when the cold night winds began to blow. Inside a garden maze, filled with sleeping flowers, I found the nameless girl. Finally, once again, the Marquis found the girl again and, instead of rushing to her immediately, he approached her carefully from a distance. He lowered her guard by keeping his distance, using conversational methods he had learned from a book on negotiation fundamentals, approaching her slowly. The more we talked, the more I realized that this nameless girl defied understanding. She was limited in knowledge, and this caused our conversations to go round in circles and wander aimlessly. However, her pure eyes, shining with curiosity, told me this. This nameless girl was not a ghost. The question that had plagued me for a month was finally resolved. However, a new question arose. So, what was this girl? Why did she walk such a strange path? As dawn gradually kissed the sky, the girl disappeared without a word, and like a man possessed, I walked home in a daze before realizing something as I stood in front of my mirror. My eyes shone with the same light as hers. The Marquis, now more intrigued than ever, began to visit the palace whenever possible, using any excuse he could. 22nd day of the 9th month. Our third meeting took place. The Marquis finally had the long-awaited third meeting. The conversation he shared with her was nothing special. It was basically the Marquis answering the girl's questions. He didn't even ask why she didn't know such basic things. In fact, he never asked any questions. He was afraid that she would disappear into thin air, like before. The Marquis was careful not to frighten her with questions, and when dawn came he asked her his first question. At that moment, there was one issue that mattered more to me than the name of this nameless girl. Could I see her again? I asked this, and the nameless girl looked surprised before hesitating and finally giving an answer. Probably. It was then that Hyunbyul commented. Quite intriguing, right? I mean, not really, considering all I can imagine is the Marquise's wrinkled face. Then look at that on the table. It is the portrait of the Marquis when he was young. Serious. He was quite handsome. I supposed he had to be for the nameless girl to be a little embarrassed when he asked to see her again. Anyway, I won't interrupt any longer. Keep reading. The stuff at the end is the real highlight. I sensed a slight bitterness in Hyunbyul's tone, almost as if she was leading me into a trap I had already fallen into. I couldn't be sure, but I decided not to ask and continued reading the diary. Summer has passed, as have autumn, winter, spring. Even with the changing seasons, the Marquis continued to meet the girl, and the relationship between them slowly began to change. The girl spoke as she sat on the edge of the fountain. I couldn't hear her properly because of the running water. From the distant entrance to the edge of the fountain. From the edge of the fountain, a little closer. The distance between their conversations continued to shrink. See you next time. At some point, their meetings became a routine. I think I might show up in the morning during General Arkan's inauguration. They even started scheduling meetings at specific times, and naturally, the distance between dates in the diary also started to decrease. The Marquis knew nothing. The girl's name, her age, or her circumstances. He didn't know anything, but that didn't bother him. Those days were so comfortable and precious to him that he never asked any questions. He simply hoped that one day the girl would feel comfortable enough to tell him everything on her own. At least, that was his intention. 19th day of the 7th month. A year has passed, and summer has arrived again. The girl disappeared. One day, the Marquis arrived early at the palace garden where they always met, but was greeted only by the wind. She probably couldn't come for some reason, he thought. Even so, every time there was an official event at the palace, the Marquis would go to the garden, but the girl never returned. I once read in a book that all emotions stem from loss. When someone loses something, is that when their true emotions are revealed, or something? I couldn't understand it when I first read that. Wasn't it enough to do everything right before losing something so that there would be no regrets later? I thought that because I was ignorant at the time. Yes, that's what I thought in the past. The Marquis finally realized his true feelings, but it was too late. He asked everyone if they knew the girl and even made up excuses to go to the palace, but he was never able to find her. Did they meet again? You don't think so? Well, considering the thickness of the book, there was still a lot of story to go on. Suddenly, I remembered a dilemma I saw on the internet. What's scarier? Having a lot of story left, but the remaining pages getting thinner and thinner, or the story should be coming to an end, but there are still a lot of pages left. I was more afraid of the second option. The fact that there were so many pages left also meant that there could be a genre shift. An unexpected twist was lurking. And that was exactly it. When I finally met her again, she was no longer a girl or a teenager. The girl who had grown up exactly as I had imagined in my dreams had become a magnificent woman. However, instead of being happy to see her again, I felt the weight of the years crushing my heart. 6 years, it was 6 long years until I found her again. After 6 long and lonely years, the Marquis finally found the girl again, now a woman. I had imagined countless scenarios for this moment. I would reveal my heart to her, and when I asked her name, she would cry and fall into my arms. After that, she would confess something to me under circumstances more shocking than I could have imagined. She would ask if I was okay, and I would smile, saying it was nothing, that I could handle it. I imagined this scenario every night, hundreds and thousands of times, but that day, I didn't ask her anything. Because I already had a pregnant wife. I couldn't help what I said when I read the last line of the page. I don't believe it, for fuck's sake. It felt like I needed to add another tag to this story. Is that NTR? I muttered. Hyunbyul shook her head. No, it's a tragedy. Suddenly, I was afraid to turn the page. Surviving the game as a barbarian, Chapter 765. Secret Garden, 6/6 Novels, Br. As I continued reading the diary, Hyunbyul asked next to me, "What's up? Isn't it fun?" What I mean to say. To be honest, I couldn't say it was an enjoyable read. I wasn't into the romance genre in the first place, and I also wasn't someone who cared about other people's love lives. Still, I couldn't deny that it was a little engaging. After all, the protagonist of this story was the Marquis. This book would tell me what the Marquis went through to get to the point of making the reckless decision to go against the king. But I can't say for sure yet. However, with only the first half of the diary read, I still couldn't fully understand it. So I kept reading. If I quickly skipped over the uninteresting parts and just summarized the main points. When she saw me freeze as if I had seen a ghost, she asked what had happened. I told her that I had a pregnant wife waiting for me at home. And so, the reunion after 6 years ended like this. The girl remained silent for a while before saying, "Then you need to go early." The Marquis replied that yes, he should, and so he did. The thought refused to leave me. What was the meaning of that silence that day? Maybe she felt the same way I did. It wasn't fun or important to me to know how much the Marquis suffered and stewed over his feelings, so I just skipped that part. In time, the Marquis's son came into the world. His joy in raising him was genuine. And yet, this thought continues to torment me. What would the child be like if I had it with me? Perhaps it would be as beautiful and lovely, or perhaps even more beautiful and lovely than my son. The Marquis devoted himself even more to his family to erase these sinful thoughts, and it was also at this time that he assumed leadership of the house in place of his sick father. With his days consumed by work and family, the Marquis's memories of his first love began to slowly fade. But then, she appeared again, after another 6 years. This happened on the day he went to the palace to officially claim his title of Marquis. Nostalgia drew him to the garden, where he found her once more. The first thought I had when I saw her again was that it felt like we had only met yesterday. It wasn't a metaphor for my longing for her. She looked exactly the same as the last time I saw her, 6 years ago. The passage of time has not touched her. Although he found this a little strange, the Marquis didn't pay much attention to it. She congratulated me on my son and my succession, and I accepted her words with joy. Time had buried the emotions, and I was finally able to ask her, "What is your name, and why are you hiding in the palace like this?" She hesitated for a long time before finally speaking. But it wasn't an answer to my question, but rather a request. She asked me to take her outside. The Marquis pondered the request for some time before finally accepting it. No matter what his situation was, he believed that now that he was a Marquis, he could deal with the consequences. Furthermore, he calculated that he could find out more about her situation after helping her out. I managed to get her out of the palace undetected, and then I used magic to change the color of her hair and eyes. Around Eltora's birth, I took her to a secret refuge I prepared without anyone knowing. It wasn't hard to understand that the village I was in was the secret refuge he spoke of. It probably didn't matter much to the story. We spent a lot of time in this secret hideaway, and I finally managed to learn her name. My interest was rekindled upon reading this line. Although there were still more pages in the book, the moment I had been waiting for had finally arrived. Marin Huenvena Raftania, also. That was her name. Sirius. Some time ago, I saw a portrait of a woman inside the Marquis's hidden room. I suspected it was Ragna's mother. Marin Huenvena. 1. The surname had been scratched with something sharp and was illegible. However, now I knew his full name. Raftania. The surname that only those of royal lineage could bear in this kingdom. A shiver ran down my spine as soon as I saw him. There was a good chance that Ragna's mother was Marin Huenvena Raftania, which also meant, Ragna, is he a descendant of the royal family? Even if the princess had given birth to her out of wedlock and in secret, it did not change the fact that she carried the king's blood. So why is the Marquis rebelling against the crown? Of course, this unnamed princess probably had something to do with it, but I didn't know the details of their situation. So I kept reading. All the answers I was looking for were probably in these pages. While she remained in the secret refuge, I listened to her story. Her story was far more shocking than I could have ever imagined. I never expected the palace to hide such secrets. Wait, does he actually write down what these secrets are? No, I sighed. So the Marquis purposely did not include the details when compiling this diary. Okay, I'll finish reading first. As shocking as the secrets were, what really made me feel sorry for her was the way she was raised to be a sacrificial lamb. My compassion for her grew with each passing day. As a man with a wife and child, I tried to resist this, but the day tears flowed from her eyes, I had no choice but to acknowledge that my feelings went beyond mere compassion. Fortunately for me, I wasn't the only one with these feelings. When I finally confirmed this, I experienced a sense of accomplishment that I would never get again in my life. However, these sweet moments between the Marquis and Marin did not last long. Considering the sheer power of the palace, it was already surprising that I had managed to stay with her for a month. In the end, they found us, and I saw him in the throne room. He wasn't at all what I expected. I thought he was trying to intimidate me at first, but he laughed, made a joke, and then made me a proposition. He said something about needing at least one person among those who worked for him who knew the secret as well as he did. He looked favorably on me and offered me the position of Prime Minister, and I had no choice but to accept. It was a promotion I had longed for, but as someone who was now in on the palace secret, I could not rejoice at it. The story after his meeting with the king could be summed up in just a few lines. The Marquis returned to the secret refuge and resumed his sweet moments with her, and in the end, this love bore fruit. She got pregnant. The Marquis was elated, much more so than when he had Eltora. There's no way this can have a happy ending. Not with so many pages left. The event that changed his life was something that even I, who have seen countless stories, could not have predicted. What destroyed this happiness that I thought would last forever was not a change of heart on the part of the king, a political scheme, or the betrayal of a subordinate. It was something closer to divine judgment. As we lay in bed, whispering words of love to each other as I caressed her rounded belly, Marin suddenly cried out. "Who am I? Who are you? Where am I?" She screamed incomprehensible words, almost as if she were possessed. Then she said something that should never have left her lips. Dungeon and stone. An evil spirit had entered Marin's body. As if struck once more by thunder, I stood paralyzed, shocked beyond belief, my mind completely blank. However, as time passed and my thoughts returned, a question arose. I thought evil spirits could only possess people when they reached adulthood. While I wasn't sure of Marin's exact age when this happened, it must have been long after she had become an adult. 6 years had already passed since the Marquis noticed that she had stopped being a girl and had become a woman. So how could something like this happen? Although the author of the diary, the Marquis, did not mention anything about this problem, I was able to formulate a hypothesis based on one of the passages he wrote earlier. It was as if we had only seen each other yesterday. As if 6 years hadn't passed for her. Perhaps, for some reason, some external factor had caused Marin's biological time to actually stop. The palace had that strange life-preserving device, so it wasn't something that absurd to imagine. Now I understand why Hyunbyul said this is a tragedy. After Marin's body was taken over by an evil spirit, the Marquis's life fell apart. He asked the king for advice, but the king just clicked his tongue and said there was no solution, giving the Marquis his permission to do whatever he wanted, kill her or save her. It was as if the sky was falling down on him. However, time still passed in that hell, and Marin's pregnancy reached the final stage. Whatever it was, man or woman, took its own life, giving birth to my daughter. The evil spirit died after giving birth to Ragna. However, the Marquis told the palace that Ragna had died in childbirth and took Ragna away from them in secret. He wished that at least this child would have a peaceful life. But then, even Eltora became an evil spirit. Over time, even his eldest son, his only remaining connection, became an evil spirit. Then, only Ragna remained. The Marquis probably just wants to destroy all the evil spirits in the world. I couldn't even begin to imagine what he must have felt. Still, from my point of view, the Marquis did something foolish. It seemed like he planned to leave everything he had achieved to Ragna. On the 21st day of the 10th month. The dates in the diary were getting closer and closer to the present, now just a month before the Marquis's revolt against the palace. Before my preparations were complete, the king awoke. I need to protect this child no matter what. That was the last line of the diary, and I let out a deep sigh as I closed the book. So, how was it? Hyunbyul asked. Fun. Not at all. My assessment after reading the entire diary was that it wasn't fun. And why would that be? I thought something interesting would come out at the end, but it was kind of empty, I added. Obviously, the Marquis is still alive. I read it myself just to make sure, but I should have just asked you to summarize it in 3 sentences. How could I condense all of this into 3 sentences? Isn't it simple? First, the Marquis fell in love with the princess. Second, the princess became an evil spirit and then died giving birth. Third, time passed, the eldest son, Eltora, also became an evil spirit, and the Marquis revolted to protect the last child he had left. The story could easily be summarized like this, and the recipient would still understand everything they needed to. If the recipient was Ragna, the message could be even more concise. I love you, my daughter. That one sentence would be enough. Yes, it definitely looked like a letter from him to Ragna. He ignored the secret of the palace, and even reading the rest of the diary, I could see that many things had been purposely omitted to hide them. Well, if those secrets were also written here, he probably wouldn't have said that Hyunbyul could read it too. I had even more questions than I had before reading the entire diary. What are you thinking about? Hyunbyul asked. I'm wondering what the Marquis is thinking. Why are you curious about this? Isn't it obvious that he wants to succeed in the coup and protect his daughter? Yes, but that's plan A, a plan he himself believes has little chance of success, since he left this diary behind. I guess so. With his personality, he definitely has a plan B to protect Ragna. I just can't understand what it would be. Just putting her to sleep in a secret village like this. Isn't that too complacent? Hyunbyul was silent for a moment, pondering, and then said. Maybe. Your plan B, Hansu. What? I mean, doesn't it make sense? The fact that he tried to marry you off before. Hyunbyul paused, then smiled. And he knows better than anyone. You're the kind of person who would raise your blade against the palace if it were to protect those you hold dear. Surviving the game as a barbarian. Chapter 766. Putting Things in Order, 1/8 Novels, Br. Hyunbyul's suggestion that the Marquis's plan B could be me left me momentarily stunned. But only for a brief moment, of course. It wasn't entirely outside the realm of possibility, I reasoned to myself. If the Marquis lost, it meant the palace would win, and if the palace won, there was a good chance I had contributed to that victory, so he could have assumed I would have enough power to at least protect Ragna. The Marquis could definitely have calculated up to this point. However, I still found it hard to believe that I was his plan B. Maybe your plan C. I'll think more about it later. Is there anything else I should know? I asked. The fact that you need me if you want to go to the secret room where Countess Peprock is. I nodded. I understand. But about Countess Peprock, Hyunbyul began cautiously. Why was she hesitating? Hadn't she just said there was nothing else she needed to tell me? When I gave her a suspicious look, Hyunbyul met my gaze, an unreadable expression in her eyes. Isn't she pretty? He added. Well, I guess so. Then why did you reject her? What was I supposed to do? Marry every beautiful woman I saw. Besides, if I had married her back then, I would have been dragged into the Marquise's plans. But Hyunbyul probably wasn't asking out of curiosity about those reasons. From the time I had spent with Hyunbyul, I knew she wouldn't accept any political reasons I could give. Now, she was asking this question to set the stage for another. Marriage is an important event in life. I need to be more cautious than ever. I used my Confucian mindset for the first time in a while and spoke firmly. In fact, it was more of a way of saying that I didn't want to pursue this topic any further. Realizing my intentions, Hyunbyul didn't insist, but she seemed a little annoyed, judging by her next provocation. Oh, so you like that doll so much? Why was this brought up all of a sudden? Hyunbyul, you know I had no choice but to lie. Was it really a lie? Copies of that doll you held are quite popular among the nobles lately. I stopped. Serious? Yes, seriously. They say something like, oh, so this is the doll that the giant, Bjorn Yandel, likes so much. It seems. Please stop talking about it. Dude, why did I do that? Even I didn't know for sure looking back now, but I decided to stop thinking about it. It wasn't like I could go back in time and fix it. Whatever, let's go. The others are waiting for us. I needed to move on. When we returned to the room where my allies waited, Amelia asked me a question. So, did the conversation go well? Her tone was the same as always, but after so much time by her side, I noticed a slight hint of hurt in her voice. However, before I could respond, Hyunbyul stepped forward. Yes, thanks to you, we had a nice private conversation. Thank you again, Miss Emily. I wasn't asking you. Oh, you weren't. I'm so sorry. Amelia remained silent in the face of Hyunbyul's insincere apology. I noticed a sudden chill in the air and quickly changed the subject. Emily, is there anything going on out there? It's quiet. It seems like he's attracting enough attention that they don't have time to worry about us. And while you guys were talking, I looked around the building, but I didn't find anything that. Look, Hyunbyul interrupted. What would you do without me? It took Amelia a moment to respond. What do you mean? There is a hidden area in this village. Most people would never find it, no matter how hard they looked. She was probably referring to the place where Ragna was sleeping. While I understood that she wanted to emphasize how much I owed her, I really would have preferred if she would stop. Amelia had been smiling for some time now, but only with her lips, not her eyes. You're an interesting kind of person. Amelia was probably wondering the same thing. This woman, who could be killed without putting up any resistance, had appeared out of nowhere and continued to provoke her. I don't know why she likes to torment others so much when she's so weak. I was a little relieved that Hyunbyul was a non-combatant and hurried to conclude my train of thought. Even if the Noarchians aren't actively pursuing us now, we don't know what might happen next, I said. So, Harun Savvy, guide us to that room where you said Countess Peprock is. Of course. Despite the short conversation, I already felt exhausted. Shaking my head, I followed Hyunbyul to the outer walls of the building. Is there a hidden area here? Amelia asked, frowning. She followed us as well. I shared the same doubt. Typically, hidden areas were behind bookshelves or under rugs. Isn't the garden behind this wall? Just as Eltora said, there was no room behind this wall. However, I didn't doubt Hyunbyul. This was another world, where dreams, hopes, and magic existed. Instead of answering, Hyunbyul extended her long fingers and touched the wall. The bracelet on her wrist began to glow and resonate with the surface. A blue light emanated from the resonating wall. It was something completely different from the magic circles I had seen so far. But it wasn't something unknown to me. A portal. I muttered as I saw the shimmering portal form before us, undulating as if beckoning us to enter. It seems the Marquis invested a lot in this, Amelia commented, now with her logical and direct tone. I didn't detect any mana until the portal started forming. Hyunbyul smiled. I was afraid the weather would heat up again, but nothing happened. I'll go first, I declared. The space inside the portal was surprisingly ordinary. I expected something more mystical, considering we needed a portal to enter. Is it just a regular room? A cozy room with a bed, table and wallpaper. I looked around for a moment before my eyes settled on the bed. Ragna was there, sound asleep, oblivious to everything going on in the world. A strange feeling grew inside me at the sight of her. I could never have imagined she was a princess. Fate was truly mysterious. What were the chances that the librarian I met when I was still a 9th-level barbarian adventurer would end up being royalty? Is there a way to wake her up? I asked Hyunbyul, who came in right behind me. I think so. Either the Marquis wakes her up personally, or he dies. So, nothing we can do for now. I guess not. I sighed. That was it, then. As I stood silently watching Ragna, Amelia addressed me. So we have confirmed the safety of Countess Peprock. What are you going to do now? Are you going to use this woman to find the Marquis? I took a moment to compose myself before nodding. Something like that. Something like that. What do you mean? Well, after reading the diary, I understood one fundamental truth. The Marquis truly loved his daughter. Just wait. He'll come to us as soon as he wakes up. And we needed to prepare for his arrival. The plan was quite simple, especially when a barbarian was executing it. Boom! I swung my hammer in my gigantified size and destroyed the Marquis's box of memories. The roof, the walls, the well-kept garden, the fences. It took me only 10 minutes to reduce this secret village, apparently designed by some renowned architect, to rubble. Wow, that was fast. Ho ho. Of course, Einar declared proudly. Barbarians are experts in construction. Construction. Oh, well, I suppose demolition is also part of construction. Hyunbyul looked impressed as she watched my work, and Einar stood to the side, puffing out his chest with pride. When the Marquis saw his village destroyed, he probably wouldn't be able to contain himself, but that didn't matter to me. After quickly destroying the place, I approached the outer wall, now covered in debris. I took special care not to damage it, as that was where the portal entrance was. Flower savvy, open the portal. Sure. We opened the portal and entered the room, completing our preparations. Since it was Aoyan who struck him, the Marquis would probably wake up the next afternoon and come here to check the situation. And once I found out this place was destroyed, with the love he had for his daughter, he would definitely send someone to check on her safety, and there was a good chance that he would come in person. Since the Marquis had not been transferred here after he lost consciousness, not even his closest subordinates probably knew about this place. In order to maintain her safety and secrecy, he would have no choice but to come in person. But it didn't matter, even if he didn't come in person. If he sent a subordinate, we would have a good chance of finding out where he was interrogating this person. I just needed to find the Marquis. Of course I knew that. Simply defeating the Marquis wouldn't end the war, but so what? By killing him, my deal with the king would be fulfilled, and I wouldn't have to care about the war anymore. Let them take care of the rest. We killed time, waiting in the cramped room. Although, to be fair, it wasn't complete silence. It's been a while since we spent time together like this in a room, hasn't it, Lord Baron? Why was she still doing this? Did she really enjoy teasing me that much? Hunk. Knowing that she would only insist more if I reacted, I pretended to be asleep. Upon realizing, Hyunbyul just laughed and left me alone. But then, Einar came with an unexpected attack. Stop being so daring, human. I understand that you are in heat, but your body cannot produce a warrior. What the hell are you talking about? I don't know what kind of relationship you had with Bjorn. However, we won't ignore you. We also have no intention of putting you in line. So don't show off and just keep quiet. Hyunbyul seemed taken aback and was visibly disconcerted by the barbaric frankness. However, she soon caught her breath and opened her mouth to respond. Enough, I intervened, stopping the situation from escalating. Einar, you two, just be quiet and eat this. I'm not trying to cause trouble. Oh. This is jerky made from Eltispa. You're giving me something so precious. What, Eltispa? She never gave me that, not even when I asked. My mouth started to water at the aroma of high-quality jerky, but I continued to pretend to be asleep. At some point, I actually fell asleep. I woke up later, hungry, and spent the time teasing the Marquise's son. 6 hours, 12 hours, 1 day. The period in which the Marquise should have woken up has passed. 2 days, 3 days. Even more time passed, and I began to think that my plan had gone wrong. Then a bright light shone, and a visitor stepped through the portal. Surviving the game as a barbarian. Chapter 767. Putting Things in Order, 2/8 Novels, Br. The person who stepped through the shimmering portal was someone I could never have predicted. Contrary to my expectation that it would be the Marquis or one of his top aides, the newcomer had nothing to do with the march. Or maybe, it wasn't so irrelevant after all. The man looked quickly around the room and, as if he had seen a ghost, stammered. Bjorn Yandel. My shock mirrored his glasses. It was the same person who, a few days ago, had made me a certain proposal before my duel against Demon Eye. The man closest to the Castellan and a discreet confidant who did not assume a specific role, more of a jack of all trades for emergencies than anything else. But that wasn't the most important thing now. I raised my hammer, stopping it just inches from his face, and demanded. How did the Castellan of Noark know about this place? While the Marquis was unconscious, all authority was transferred to the Castellan, he replied nervously, and then, too eager to justify himself, he continued speaking beyond my inquiry. As things stand now, the Marquis has been freed from all his earthly desires and is under the protection of the Castellan. So basically, you stabbed the Marquis in the back while he was passed out and now you have him under control. True to the Noarchian's pragmatic reputation, he calmly agreed with my blunt accusation. Exactly. The Marquis was too emotionally compromised to act toward his true goal. What do you mean, Lord Baron? Didn't he fire multiple thunderbolt attacks at you? Those attacks could have been aimed at strategic targets to ensure victory, but instead, he let himself be blinded by his selfish desires. And even after all that, he still failed to capture you. How clever, too, emphasized the Marquise's possession of thunder. Considering that a single thunder attack required an obscene number of sacrifices, and that the Castellan's Noarchian forces had played a significant role in obtaining those sacrifices, it was convenient to ignore this complicity. Still, it wasn't like I didn't understand his point. But that wasn't what mattered right now. That wasn't my question. How exactly did the Castellan know to send you here? A spark of understanding crossed the man's face at my insistence, and he quickly gave me his answer. Oh, the Castellan didn't know you were hiding here, Lord Baron. If I had known that, I wouldn't have been so surprised to see you, right? Great, that didn't answer my question again. Seriously, how could someone take this long? Get to the point, I said coldly. The Castellan is extremely intelligent and I said to get straight to the point. Finally, he relented. The Marquis made a request while he was being held prisoner. He asked us to confirm whether Countess Ragna Peprock was here. Did the Marquis personally ask you to check? More precisely, he asked us to check that she was here, safe and intact, and to leave her alone if she was. And if she wasn't, we were to find her by any means necessary. And what was the reward for fulfilling this request? The man hesitated, conflict evident on his face. In the end, his answer was short. The possession of thunder. The pieces were falling into place. The Marquis awoke from his coma only to find himself stripped of his military authority. Realizing that he had quickly been reduced to a mere pawn, he knew that he could no longer protect Ragna with his own power. So he offered thunder as a bargaining chip, I thought, amazed at the absurdity of it. He wanted to protect Ragna at any cost. All Aoyan did was knock out the Marquis for 2 days, and yet, that was enough for everything to fall apart like this. That single incident led to the complete collapse of the Marquis's plans, undoing everything beyond repair before he could even truly execute them. Well, if the Marquis and the Castellan had a better relationship, being unconscious for 2 days wouldn't have led to a situation like this. In this brutal world, any show of weakness was an invitation to be torn to the bone. Unfortunately for the Marquis, he had exposed his vulnerability and now had no choice but to give it all up. An avalanche of consequences unleashed by a single captured navigator. Why did you? It's just that. Why you suddenly? The navigator stuttered upon seeing my expression. I'm just proud of you. Aoyan's small act created a guiding star that would shine forever in this era. Leaving that aside, regardless of the Marquis's situation, there was still one issue that bothered me. I hadn't even begun to properly interrogate the guy, so why was Glasses, the Castellan's troubleshooter, telling me all of this so freely? It wasn't long before I heard the answer directly from him. Isn't it obvious? I've concluded that I can't achieve my goals without persuading you first. Do you think you can convince me to help you get possession of the Marquis's thunder? I asked, almost laughing. Why not? His audacity left me momentarily speechless. Also, we know as well as you do that Noarch is not your sworn enemy. It was an unthinkable insult, something that should never have been said to a titled noble of Rafdania, much less to the man who was being hailed as the city's hero. However, there was nothing I could say to dispute it. My goal in this war was to survive and ensure the safety of as many allies as possible. And killing the Marquis would ensure that. Tell me what you want, Glasses insisted. Surely we can come to some kind of agreement. I sighed. How was I supposed to navigate this crossroads? Before making any decision, I asked him about the situation outside, starting with the progress of the war and then moving on to things that aroused my curiosity. Beko Lee, he held the front line for a while after you left, but eventually disappeared. Even with all those people running away with him, we couldn't catch them, they just vanished. So Beko had disappeared. What did that bastard hope to gain from this war? His motives continued to elude me. Still, it seemed like some sort of ceasefire had been reached. The walls around each district were being used as battle lines, and everyone was just holding their positions, not daring to make a move. We need Countess Peprock. Glasses bet. And if you hand her over to us, the Castellan will grant anything you wish. Oh, even if I ask for his head. When he fell silent, I added, I'm just kidding. Even I'm not that reckless. I thought it was time to put the jokes aside and confirm one last thing. What if I ask for the Marquis? Would that be possible? Of course, he replied. We don't care what you do with the Marquis, as long as the transfer of ownership of Thunder goes smoothly. Really? I'll remember that. Glasses noticed my skepticism and added, that's not just my opinion. The Castellan will come to the same conclusion when he speaks to him. I've served him for a long time. You can trust me on that. I'll decide that when we get there. Ending the conversation, I covered his eyes with a blindfold and fitted him with a set of earmuffs. Of course, these weren't real headphones, just a magical tool with the same effect. I needed some time to think. Emily, I called. What do you think? Amelia, who had heard the entire conversation, made her position clear. I think it's feasible. Of course, on the condition that everything he told us is true. What kind of person is the Castellan of Noarch? Is he trustworthy? Not at all. He's respectable, of course, but not because he's trustworthy. Still, he's never been one to make unnecessary enemies. I remember he tried to side with me before, I muttered. Anyway, I assume you agree with the plan. In my opinion, we have a better chance of making this trade happen safely than with any other plan we could formulate to better position ourselves. Amelia's assessment was the final piece I needed. And me, aren't you going to ask me? I ignored Einar's random grumbling and took off the earmuffs on the glasses. I want to speak to the Castellan first. I assume you have a way to contact him. Sure, he said, if you want to talk to him now. Oh, but it doesn't work well here. We should go outside first. Sure, it was a risk, but something kept me from thinking about it too much. Even if the deal went wrong, at least I would find out where the Marquis was being held. Let's go. With that, we left the rubble of the building and contacted the Castellan using a magical tool. He seemed surprised to suddenly see me on his line of communication, but it didn't take him long to understand the situation and seal the deal. You help us convince the Marquis to transfer ownership of Thunder, and in exchange, we hand over the Marquis to you. Are those all your conditions? Yes. Then there is no reason to refuse. Hand over Countess Peprock to him. When the transfer of possession is complete, I will take the Marquis to a location of his choosing. No, I can't trust that. I want to meet him in person. The Castellan took a moment to respond. You are taking advantage of the situation. Shouldn't I be the one saying that about you? I retorted, trying to hide my genuine surprise. What, do you think you can catch me if I grab you and run? There was silence on the other end of the line before the Castellan finally relented. I will allow you to accompany him to the Marquis's location. But understand that we will need to prepare some things beforehand. Ready? You may have other intentions. Surely you understand that we need a way to stop him. But don't worry, if the exchange is successful, you won't be in any danger. Sure, but will I see him in person? The Castellan chuckled. Well, I'm not foolish enough to meet someone that not even the demon eye could stop. Oh, and bring all your allies with you. Normally, it would be the opposite. But I didn't have to wonder for long. This is our last line of defense, he explained. Not even you could escape while ensuring the safety of all your allies. I sighed. Even a simple back alley thug already knew what my weakness was. I hope for good news when we speak again. After this farewell from the Castellan, we received confirmation that the preparations were complete, and we continued on with glasses guiding us. The Marquis was being held in a building on the outskirts of District 4, near the wall that bordered Bifron. As soon as we entered the building and started climbing the stairs, Amelia whispered to me, Yandel, this building, no, this entire area is crawling with enemies. How many? If it was just you, me, and Einar, maybe we'd be fine, but if we want to keep the rest safe, there are too many people for us to escape. So it was like this. The Castellan knew how to use the time he had well. Here's the room, Glasses announced. He glanced back before slowly opening the door. Inside, a middle-aged man lying on the bed quickly sat up, his eyes widening upon seeing me. He was the Prime Minister of Raftania, Agony Lawton Tersarian. But as I looked at him more closely, I frowned. Something about him seemed strange, almost as if he were a completely different person. Has the Marquis always been so small? He didn't seem to have lost any weight, but somehow I saw him as a frail, aging man. Was it because of his simple clothes? I understood the reason for this dissonance as soon as our eyes met. Your eyes. The predatory look I always saw in him was gone. I suppose this was to be expected. His military authority had been taken away, and now he was just trapped in this room. As he assessed him from a distance, the Marquis nodded, seeming to understand the situation. So you finally came, he said, his tone suggesting he had been expecting it. My answer was confident. I told you I would find him. To be honest, I was a little surprised myself. How could I have predicted that we would meet like this? Still, I knew an opening when I saw it. Good to see you. Then I hit the back of his head. Thwack. I was a little surprised. So that was what the Marquise's head sounded like. I had imagined this sound every day since the Frozen Rock expedition, and yet, it's not so satisfying. For some reason, it didn't feel that rewarding. Surviving the game as a barbarian. Chapter 768. Putting Things in Order, 3/8 Novels, Br. My life experiences have proven that the hands of a barbarian were a cure for many things. I had personally cured many mental problems with these hands, and this time was no different. Thwack. As soon as my blow landed on the back of his head, life returned to the Marquise's previously glassy, dead eyes. Well, more than life, it was more of a mix of humiliation and anger, but these negative emotions still proved that he was alive, so it wasn't an entirely wrong word to use. Okay, that sounds better, I said, unable to hide my satisfaction at seeing him regain his zest for life. Slowly, he turned to face me, a whirlwind of emotions in his eyes. There was bewilderment at having his head hit, humiliation at having to look up at someone who had once been beneath his feet, and finally, Ragnarok. There was love for his daughter, and shame for having failed to protect her. I had no reason to sympathize with him. A warrior's heart was not so weak as to feel pity for his enemies, and I still remembered the Marquise's words well on that fateful day. After this, any of those precious allies of yours could die. No, they will die. I'll make sure of that. You must feel it too. You must feel my pain. This curse, born from the depths of his heart, had become reality. I was struck by thunder, and while I was unconscious, Rodmiller died trying to save me. The man who killed Rodmiller was an unnamed Noarch soldier, but the Marquis was also partly to blame. There was no pity in my heart for this man. I clenched my fists, feeling the weight of the 20 lives that had been lost at Frozen Rock, a weight too great to allow room for such human emotions as empathy. As we stared at each other in silence, glasses interrupted the conversation from behind us. Marquis, as promised, we brought your daughter to you. So, fulfill your part of the deal. Are you talking about the possession of thunder? The Marquis confirmed. Exactly. If you do, Noarch will guarantee your daughter's protection. Of course, you will not receive the same treatment. Baron Yandel requested your custody in exchange for her safety. I see, so that's what happened. Only then did the Marquis seem to understand how I had appeared next to glasses. He then turned to me with a new question. Did you see? It was a short, concise and ambiguous question at the same time. But I didn't need any explanation. I see. The Marquise's voice trailed off into silence before he spoke again. I would like a private word with the Baron. Could you please leave the room for a moment? My daughter can stay with you. Glasses hesitated at the Marquise's request, but soon agreed, granting him this favor. You can grant me that at least, the Marquis insisted. I ask only for a brief moment. You will need to keep your promise. Surprisingly, Glasses granted permission without much difficulty. I turned to confirm with Amelia, who took the others and left the room along with him. With that, only the Marquis and I were left. It's been a while since we had a private conversation like this. It took me a moment before I responded. You're calmer than I expected. Fear is an emotion that arises in those who have something to lose. But look at me. Do I have something to lose? Well, from what I saw in that diary, it seems so. Ragna's indirect mention brought a bitter smile to the Marquise's face. In some ways, the Marquis was not so different from me. Our weaknesses were painfully visible to the world. So, what is it? You suddenly asked for this private conversation. Are you going to say something about leaving your daughter with me? My tone was laced with sarcasm, but there was nothing in his posture that indicated he had an answer on the tip of his tongue. What a boring guy. What, is that what you? How much do you know about the royal house of Raftania? He interrupted suddenly, catching me off guard. Why did the subject change to that? To be honest, it was a topic I had intended to bring up myself. The Marquis just stepped forward. To the royal house of Rafdania. If there was anyone who could shed light on the great secrets surrounding this royal house, it was the Marquis. What were they so desperate to hide? Well, I know some things most people don't, he said nonchalantly, trying to get an answer out of him. Why? Do you have something to tell me? The Marquis nodded without hesitation. So, spill the beans. Who knows? Maybe I'll be so moved by your story that I'll decide to help Ragna. I baited him to talk, and his response was a shocking confession. The Immortal King and the New World King are the same person. Also, what did he just say? The epic of the New World King was well known. When civil unrest reached its peak with the Immortal going mad and killing everyone in his path, the New World King took the throne and ushered in a new era for the people. The death of what does not die and the birth of a new era. The new king abolished many outdated traditions and implemented numerous policies aimed at the welfare of the citizens. His reforms earned him the fervent support of the people, who hailed him as the wise king. But now, the Marquis was telling me otherwise. Are they the same person? The revelation was shocking, but there was no time to sit in stunned silence. First, I needed to confirm the veracity of this statement. Is this information reliable? I asked, already foreseeing that it might be a useless question. The Marquis answered only this. From the fact that you didn't question whether that was even possible, it seems you already know something about the royal house. He was right. After exploring the first underground floor in the world outside the walls, things that didn't exist in the game, I learned a lot about the royal family. Oh, you didn't know. After the Immortal had a child, he would steal the child's body to continue ruling. That's also why he always acted wearing a mask. I learned this secret of Rafdania from the village chief, a hero from a bygone era. At the time, I assumed that this was why the New World King wanted to usurp the throne. There was no more pressing motivation than one's own survival. Yet that was exactly why. Just answer my question, I demanded. Is this information reliable? To be honest, it was hard to believe. I knew the Marquis's claim was theoretically possible, and yet, I decided I would be different from him. That I would live like a human and die like a human. It didn't seem like he was acting when King New World said those words to me. Was everything he told me really a lie? For me to believe that, I would need at least. If you want proof, I have none of the sort, the Marquis said, anticipating my next request. The royal house of Rafdania is not so careless. However, I have spent many years investigating this family and have come to the conclusion that it is far more likely than not that the two are, in fact, the same person. After listening carefully to the Marquis' confession, I couldn't help but let out a sigh. Great, so it was all just a hunch of his. And I got all worked up over nothing. Well, it doesn't matter to me whether they're the same person or not. Anyway, was that all you wanted to tell me? That there's a good chance that the Immortal and the New World King are the same person? Of course not. I only mentioned that so I could say the rest. Then get straight to the point. This will be your last chance. Have you heard of the Heart of Karui? The Heart of Karui, a treasure imbued with the authority of an ancient evil god, said to allow its wielder to steal another's body. The Immortal used it to prolong his life by stealing the bodies of his descendants, like an evil spirit. Yes, I replied. Then I will be brief. During the process of taking over the body of the New World King, the Immortal lost the last heart of Karui he possessed. Wait, the last one. I see you frequent the library, but it seems you skipped studying ancient mythology. Even the scriptures of the Church of the Three Gods mention a verse about stuffing treasures into the two hearts of the evil god. Skip the history lesson. So, in short, the Heart of Karui, are there actually two treasures with that name? Exactly. This answered a question I always had. I always wondered how the king maintained his immortality even after the village chief fled with the heart in the ancient era. I understand. Continue. Anyway, after losing the last remaining heart, Time passed and the New World King's body also began to reach its end. Originally, he should have died at that moment. However, he's still alive. I casually completed the Marquise's sentence. Although he needs a lot more sleep these days. An unfathomable look appeared in the Marquise's eyes. I never expected you to know so much. Luck is not on my side, I replied dryly. All I wanted was to live, but I kept getting myself into all sorts of sticky situations. I won't interrupt you, so continue. What do you want to tell me? Slowly, he resumed. The royal house continued searching for the heart of Karui. And recently, the treasure has resurfaced. Fortunately, it seems the palace doesn't know its location yet, but it's only a matter of time before they find out. That's why I took such desperate measures. Why can the king take Ragna's body? Exactly. There was no other way to protect my daughter. I understood. I suspected something was driving the plot, but I never expected the full story to be this. His lover and child had been taken from him, and now he was in danger of losing his daughter as well. There was no way he could simply stand by and watch this happen. However, there was still one question. But does it have to be Ragna? Why was the Marquis so sure that the king would take Ragna's body? The king has always taken only the bodies of his own blood. There must be a reason for that. No, that's not it, I murmured, hesitating. If I were King New World, I would probably have had many different children. Can't you convince him to take the body of someone else, someone other than his own daughter? At this, the Marquis displayed a bitter smile. At one point, it was just as you said. The New World King fathered many children and stored them. However, a mysterious organization relentlessly pursued them. A mysterious organization, Hirkmuta. They wear black wolf masks and claim to follow the last great sage. I don't know their motives, but they hunted the king's children while he slept, and now there are none left. And in this process, the captain of the Knights of the Order of the Rose was also killed. But that was not the most important part. Do you understand what this means? Ragna is the only one of royal blood left. The Marquis closed his eyes, falling silent for a moment, then opened them again. Very well, then I will make you my final proposal. I waited for him to continue. Have you ever wanted to become a king? The words fell short of a demon's tempting whisper. The Marquise's expression was too desperate, too pathetic, for that. Surviving the game as a barbarian. Chapter 769. Putting Things in Order, 4/8 Novels, B.R. The world of men was structured in hierarchies. Those who failed to grow and become strong were exiled from the pack, while those who climbed the ranks increased their chances of finding an ideal mate. This was the law of nature, and no matter how much anyone tried to deny it, it was no different for humans. After all, humans were also part of nature. Engraved in their DNA was the innate desire to climb at least one more rung in the social order. Perhaps this was why boys were so drawn to games. This instinct was probably ingrained in their very essence. Well, not that it would matter if I was wrong. The king. I knew better than anyone that great responsibilities came with high positions, but still, the idea of becoming king was tempting. As I said, all men were born with at least a hint of the desire to wield absolute power and unquestionable authority, even if only once. Although, what are you up to? I wanted to make this point very clear. The Marquis was the same man who had cursed me relentlessly not long ago. Why was he switching sides now? He didn't seem like the kind of man who would go to great lengths simply to survive. Plotting. Do you think I have time to plan something like that? Well, no one can know for sure. What are you so afraid of? This is something you will have to do, regardless of me and mine. I was surprised and asked. What? Don't you understand? The Marquis asked, impassive. Think for a moment. If the king decided to target that child with malicious intent, would you really stand by and watch? I hesitated, imagining this scenario before answering. That would depend on the situation. The Marquis nodded, as if that answer was all he needed to hear. I can tell by that vague answer. You will do whatever it takes to protect her. I had to admit, he was right. But still, I think you're misunderstanding. It's true that I'm friendly with Ragna, but I wouldn't put everything I have on the line for her, I declared, making my position very clear. Contrary to my expectations, however, the Marquis simply agreed. I know. Objectively speaking, your relationship with her hasn't reached that point. That's exactly why I'm trying to make a deal with you. Surely, you already know this deep down. As long as the king is alive, the days of peace and security you desire will never come. I shuddered, frowning at the truth of his words. This old man, he really has the mind of a serpent. I sighed. Okay, then, tell me, if I want to become king, are you saying I can? It seems like you're even remotely interested. Just curious for now. I know you intend to use Ragna for this, but I'm not sure exactly how yet. I shot him a look, daring him to speak. The Marquis took a moment to compose himself before answering. It is possible. And how do you know that? For many reasons. However, the most important is me. You. I'm still alive, even after I openly opposed the royal house. This is proof that the power of the royal family is no longer as absolute as it once was. Well, couldn't this all just be a sick royal game? The mere fact that they need to resort to such measures is proof that they have weakened. The king of old would not have needed to stoop to anything like that. In the end, it was just a guess, but it seemed plausible enough to not be complete nonsense. Still, that didn't mean much at the time. If that's all your evidence, then I have no reason to listen any further, I warned. I suppose I should be grateful that the conversation is going on, then. Just get to the point. I hate wasting time. As the Marquis had already stated, we were not cooperating, but rather making a deal. Our relationship in this situation needed to be clearly defined. The responsibility for convincing the other party fell to him. First, if that child dies, you will never become king. Even if it seems like empty loyalty, the people of this city will never accept a king without royal blood. Especially if that person is a barbarian. Are you saying I can use Ragna to lessen the nobles' resistance? Exactly. Even if it's just a flimsy pretext, there's a big difference between having the king's blood and not having it. Without it, the people will oppose anyone who dares to sit on the throne. Blood will be shed every day. I have a lot to say about this, but I get your point. Go on. The very existence of this child will be of great help to you as you prepare to accomplish this feat. So I can use Ragna to expand my forces in advance. As you know, this is not something you can accomplish alone. I smiled sideways. I told him to get straight to the point, and yet he kept talking in circles. I sincerely hope you weren't trying to convince me with that alone, I teased. For starters, I have no interest in becoming king. I understand. You're not the type who would actually be interested in that position. However, you've listened to everything so far because you know. There are things in this world that must be done, even when one doesn't want to get involved in them. Could this be a glimpse of enlightenment before death? For some reason, the Marquis's words felt heavier today, as if he was looking straight into my soul. Of course, taking the throne was not something that had to be done, as he put it. Still, I thought it best to keep that in mind. The more options I had, the better. Think of it this way. I'm not asking you to protect this child at any cost, but please promise me this. Promise me that you'll do your best, at least within reason. Only then did I realize. The Marquis had said before that he was making a deal with me, but this is not a deal. Agreements involve exchange. Both parties give and both receive. But this could not be called an agreement. It was another tribute. A last prayer said with the thread of hope that remained to him. Okay. I conceded, still suspicious. I promise. I'll do my best, as long as it doesn't harm what I already have. That will be enough. With that, The Marquis finally relaxed, his rigid expression softening as he let out a sigh. And then he offered me a tribute of his own, something he hadn't said a single word about before. The Marquis spent a long time explaining to me the ins and outs of the royal household, the things I would need to do if I wanted to become king, and even which nobles I could contact if I decided to follow that path. The authority over Thunder is now yours. To my surprise, he gave me Thunder. I couldn't believe it. So what you're saying is that all I need to use Thunder is this. Unlike the monstrous form I had imagined, Thunder had no physical form. That's different from what I heard. I don't know what you've been told, but Thunder refers to the ancient magic circle buried beneath this city, he explained. With the proper authority and ammunition, anyone can use it. What you heard probably concerns the extractor. It takes countless souls to fire Thunder even once. How many times can I fire it now? 5. Nothing absurd, but certainly nothing to sneeze at either. After all, a single shot was enough to destroy an entire palace. However, Thunder cannot be used inside the labyrinth. As I told you, it is an ancient magic circle inscribed into the city's foundations. I understood. Oh, and one more thing. The Marquis slowly raised his arm, staring at his own hand as if remembering something long forgotten. Then, a light flickered. When he closed his eyes and concentrated, a black ring appeared on his previously bare ring finger. He stared at it for a long moment before taking it off and handing it to me. Take this too. It is one of the treasures of the royal house. The words sparked a memory of a conversation I had with Beko Lee. Even if I kill that bastard, he will only revive in the palace. Oh, right, I guess you didn't know, since it wasn't in the game. Anyway, there is a royal treasure that can revive him, and the Marquis is the one who has it now. So that was it. That's quite valuable, I muttered. The Marquis seemed surprised to hear this. Do you know what this is too? More or less. Doesn't it revive you in the palace when you die? But only if it's used inside the city. So, you don't know the whole story. Also, it is true that this ring allows its wearer to revive in the palace. However, death is not a strictly necessary trigger. Whether by force or intention, when activated, you are transported to a specific location within the palace. I have only been there once, but it was a place that seemed to hold a great secret. A secret area. Following my intuition, I told him about what we had discovered beneath the palace, but the Marquis shook his head. No, it's nothing like that. Anyway, I have a feeling that one day you'll discover your true purpose. Maybe. Nobody knows what might happen. Don't wear that in plain sight. There will be people who will recognize this. Of course, I agreed with him on that point, so I stored the ring in my subspace instead of putting it on my finger. With that, our agreement was over. Well then, I suggest you put an end to this. You will see that this head of mine will be important for many of your future goals. The Marquis closed his eyes, indicating that his matters had been resolved. His strangely calm demeanor stirred a strange feeling within me. I could have swung my hammer right then and there to finish him off, but instead I asked, "Why are you giving me all this? Just a few days ago, you were fighting with all your might to live. There is an order to everything. And at the moment, I have no choice." Well, yes, but I let out a soft sigh, muttering, "I won't apologize." This man sent me to the frozen rock, where countless lives were needlessly lost. And that wasn't enough for him. He tried to kill me countless times afterward, even causing Rotmiller's death in one of his recent attempts. Neither do I. It was natural. To him, evil spirits were despicable creatures, more disgusting than anything else. Have you ever watched your child's mother cry, begging to understand why she had to give birth? Have you ever tied someone's hands to keep them from punching their own swollen belly with their clenched fists? Have you ever watched your child transform overnight into someone who only pretends to be the boy you love? I didn't have, and because I didn't have it, I couldn't answer it. No amount of reading a single diary of his would ever allow me to understand the depths of the Marquise's grief. An evil spirit like you, he whispered, his voice thick with anger, has no right to blame me. I couldn't hold back the bitter laugh before it escaped. I don't intend to. We were just on opposite sides. There was a dry, horrible crack. The Marquis, lying on the freshly bloodied bed, let out his last breath. I stood there for a moment, silently staring at the grotesque scene, repeatedly clenching and relaxing the hand that held the hammer. For a long time, I thought that when this day finally arrived, I would feel ecstatic. But now that the moment I had been waiting for had come and gone, it seemed less exciting, repulsive, even. Even so, I lightly patted my face to dispel the useless thoughts clouding my mind. There was no point in wasting time on unproductive things. I just had to do what needed to be done. It's lighter than I expected. I lifted the Marquise's lifeless body and stored it in my subspace. I needed proof to show the king. I think mission accomplished. With the test in hand, I opened the door to leave the room, only to find Glasses pacing back and forth in the hallway. The moment he saw me, he ran towards me. How was it? Did you convince him to? He stopped abruptly, recoiling as he saw the bloody bed through the crack in the door. What is this? You killed the Marquis, he stammered in shock. I just tapped him on the shoulder. Don't worry, I got Thunder. Well, that's a relief, he said, letting out a sigh. Only after a moment did he seem to realize what I'd actually said, turning on his heel to stare at me with wide eyes. Did you get it? It was a frustrating answer for a barbarian like me. How could he not understand something so simple? He gave me Thunder. What's so hard about that? I explained gently, but his reaction remained as slow as before. Give it to me. His tone turned sharp, and a wary look covered his expression. I couldn't understand him. Give it to you. Why should I? Thunder was now mine. Surviving the game as a barbarian. Chapter 770. Putting Things in Order, 5/8 Novels, Br. Unexpectedly, it didn't take long for Glasses to accept reality. He took a single startled step back, but soon met my gaze head-on. Baron Yandel, he said, his voice thick with warning. You are making a grave mistake. Despite his genuine concern, those words reminded me of the past. How many people have told me that so far? Do you have any idea how many soldiers are stationed around here? You'll never get out of here alive. If you were alone, it might be a different story, but with your allies here. Never. Oh, I see, I nodded. Then my hand shot out to grab his neck. I pulled him close and leaned in, looking him in the eye. And how many lives do you have left, that you think you can get away with threatening me like that? To be honest, I've been curious for a while now. Wasn't this guy afraid of dying? If he really thought my allies were my weakness, shouldn't he have thought twice before poking a possible trigger like this? I muttered mockingly. And why wasn't he answering my question? Grack. Oh, right, I was strangling him. I loosened my grip a little, just enough so I could speak. He coughed, choking as he tried to catch his breath, before he blurted out in a rush, I'm sorry. Why are you doing this? Also, we had a deal. We'll make a trade so we both get what we want. That, true. But the situation has changed. I pointed out the obvious. What? Oh, yes. I'm sorry I couldn't keep my promise. I'm really sorry. Since I was the one who broke the agreement, I thought it was only fair to offer an apology as compensation. For some reason, though, he didn't seem to accept my sincere words. You apologize. Do you think an apology is enough? He roared. I tilted my big barbarian head in confusion. What do you mean? If apologies aren't enough, what's the point of them? Also, I did something wrong and I apologized for it. Isn't that enough? What kind of sophistry is this? Glasses shouted, frustrated. Sophistry. As a big-hearted barbarian, I decided to let his outburst slide and offer him a little advice. Don't use big words. It makes you look weak. No response. Anyway, I already apologized. Although, for me, the situation was already completely resolved, Glasses apparently had a flash of inspiration. He came up with a different argument. If excuses were enough, why would there be laws and prisons? Oh, he was smart. But he picked the wrong opponent for this debate. That's why barbarians don't like laws and prisons. The shock silenced Glasses, so I took the opportunity to take control of the conversation. Our conversation ends here, then. Seriously, now, conversations filled with resentment and accusations were far less productive than focusing on discussions about a more joyful future cooperation. So with that, call all nearby soldiers, I ordered. Have you completely lost your mind? You broke our agreement, and now you're trying to make us. If you don't call, I'll rain thunder on your office in the district. The moment I expressed my peaceful yet unwavering barbarian determination, Glasses turned pale as a corpse. The Castellan of Noark was in the District 4 building, of course. I was a little worried, but it looks like he's still there. It had been a few days since I received this information from the Prime Minister's son, so there was a possibility that he had moved somewhere else. However, from the look of pure terror on Glass's face, there was no need to resort to Plan B. Well, it's your decision, I said. Give me a moment to talk to. No, Glasses gritted his teeth at my firm interruption. How can you force me to make such a big decision alone? You said you've worked with the Castellan for a long time. Can't you predict what decision he would make in a situation like this? Do so. He was in a dilemma. On the one hand, he needed to retaliate against me for breaking the agreement, but if he did so, the Castellan might die in the process. But I wasn't too worried. This guy was so loyal to the Castellan that he even invoked the threat against my allies. If he were given a convenient way out, a chance to avoid responsibility by saying it was all to save the Castellan's life, and survive in the process. It would be stranger if he didn't take advantage of this opportunity. Regardless of his true desires, as long as the path was before him, he would be a fool not to consider it at least once. Make up your mind quickly. I've already apologized for breaking our agreement. Now choose. Do you want to spill blood over this, or do you want us to part ways without any problems? When he still hesitated, I added, believe it or not, but I swear I won't fire thunder at you or Noark. Not shooting at us. Lord Baron, are you, by any chance? Shish. Enough words. So, what's your answer? Despite my insistence, Glasses still hesitated. However, it only took a moment longer before he finally gave me his answer. I refuse. What? Don't take me for an idiot, Baron Yandel. Before I could respond, alarms throughout the building began to sound. Reeing. From what I could tell, it looked like he pressed some kind of hidden button. That's our way. We'd rather destroy everything than see it taken from us. Clearly, I had underestimated the Noarkian's mindset. I sighed. With how much his appearance screamed intellect-focused character model, I thought he would come to a logical conclusion eventually. I didn't expect you to bite the bullet like that, I muttered under my breath. Still, even though I was a little impressed, my hands continued their work. I'll say it again. Don't take others for fools without. Shut up. Die. Crunch. After quickly crushing his head with my hammer, I headed towards the room where my allies were waiting. Or at least, I tried. Where are they, anyway? Standing there in the middle of the hallway with alarms blaring, it only took me a moment to wonder where to go. Yandel. The door at the end of the hallway swung open, and Amelia walked out with the rest of the group. They must have run outside after hearing the alarms go off. What's going on? Amelia asked. I let out a sigh. Truly, luck has never been on my side. Things got a little complicated. It was time for Plan B. Plan A was simple. Threaten the Castellan by saying he would shoot thunder at him and escape with the group. It was simple, peaceful and did not require violence. Tisk. This is why you can't do business with criminals. I had underestimated the Noarchian mindset, and that plan fell apart. With that, it was time for Plan B. Surprisingly, Plan B was even simpler than Plan A, use thunder. Just those 2 words. But how do I use this? Oh, it's like, whoa, what the hell? The moment I decided to use thunder, I felt as if my soul had been ripped from my body and my vision shot upwards, passing through the ceiling and every object in its path. Vwong. When I came to, I was in the sky looking down at the entire city. It was a breathtaking spectacle, beyond anything I could experience looking down from the high city walls. Still, I didn't have time to just stare in awe. I turned my head and looked back at the building I was in. I could see a sea of Noarchian soldiers mobilized by glasses surrounding the building. Even from so high up, I could see the sheer number of them. Shooting directly at the building would probably put me in danger too. I adjusted my aim to a point a little far away. Do I just need to think about it? Mentally say, shoot. The moment I thought this, I felt some unknown mass of energy that I couldn't identify move away from me and aim. Schwang. As if a rocket had been fired from the building I was in, something huge shot into the sky. That was the last thing I saw in that ghostly state of mine. Whoa, what did you just do? I returned to my normal vision, dazed as if I had just woken up from a dream. My mind went numb for a second, but I quickly regained focus and tried to assess the situation. Oh, something huge just exploded above Bjorn's head. So I actually shot it. It didn't seem real to me after seeing that panoramic view. However, regardless of how I felt, we didn't have time. Thunder would soon fall upon this place. But Noarchian soldiers appeared from the stairwell. It seemed like everyone had rushed here as soon as the alarm was activated. Look at this excellent equipment. There was a reason Glasses was so confident that he could at least take my allies with him. Not that he was right, of course. I looked at the approaching soldiers and raised my hammer. Grab my body. Emily, take Ragna. Einar, take Haran. As soon as they were hovering near my gigantification enlarged body, I smashed the ground with my enlarged hammer. Boom! Someone screamed, and the floor made of stone and rebar crumbled without resistance, dropping us to the floor below. Is this the 3rd floor? Of course, I had no intention of stopping there. I remembered the 2D mining games I played in the past and kept hitting the ground, from top to bottom, as if I was using a pickaxe. What are you doing? Boom. 2nd floor. What is? Aya. Boom. 1st floor. We reached the 1st floor, which had a high ceiling, but I continued digging the floor. With the amount of floors this building had above, it should have a basement, right? Wow. A basement. We're in the basement. Boom. Wait, please, at least tell me what you are. Boom. And so we dug through the 1st underground floor to the 2nd. I hit it with my hammer once more, but it only left a heavy dent in the ground that wouldn't budge. Still, I kept hitting it to make a hole. Okay, that should be enough room for everyone. The moment I decided there was enough space, I grabbed my allies and pushed them into the hole. Then, with a heavy crash, I finished the underground bunker by placing the large Barbarian as a lid over it. Looks like I got it just in time. What the hell is going on? Can't you at least tell us now? Hyunbial shouted from below, where I was lying. There was only one thing I could say in response. Please survive. Any second now, it would fall. A deafening roar erupted, accompanied by the once unshakable earth shaking in wavering, jelly-like waves. If even the bedrock was moving like this, there was no chance that the world above would be safe. Kaboom! Crash! Bang! Pieces of debris from the collapsing building rained down, hitting my back. That I could handle. The problem came later. A blinding light shone, so bright that it pierced through the rubble on my back and sent searing pain through my entire body. It was so hot that I wondered if those I was protecting were safe. Fortunately, it didn't last long. It's still this intense even though it's 2 floors below ground. If I hadn't fired a little wide of the ground from us, this could have been a big problem. Right, I should check them first. The air was stiflingly hot, as if I had just stepped into a sauna, but not enough to be life-threatening. I forced myself to focus and checked on my allies. Is everyone okay? We should be the ones asking that, came Amelia's immediate reply. Are you okay? It looks like I broke a vertebra or two, but I'm fine. It should heal soon. Now answer my question. We're fine. Harun Savi had a pretty decent defense scroll. Okay, but seriously, what the hell just happened? I sighed. She was persistent, that's what she was. Why did this matter now? Nothing much. Just be quiet so I can think about it for a bit. Hyunbyul mumbled something under her breath, but I just ignored her and started thinking. We can use diving scrolls or a rotation of magical tools to deal with the oxygen problem. It might take some time, but we could escape by removing the rubble piece by piece. After that, we would just need to run through the city to Karnan and then show the Marquise's body to Astaroda. That would complete the mission. I'm almost there. My mind told me that this event was about to end, but a mysterious sense of uneasiness coiled around my heart. Ba-dum. Please let nothing bad happen.